72%. Not a little happier, significantly happier. Across income levels, across education levels, across cultures. And yet, 85% of those same men say they spend more mental energy defending the relationship to others than they spend actually being in it. Think about what that means. The happiest these men have ever been, and the thing consuming most of their mental bandwidth is not the relationship. It's the prosecution of it, by their friends, by their families, and most devastatingly, by themselves. There is a word for what happens to a man's mind when he is forced to prosecute his own happiness. I'm Marcus, and if you're a man who knows he's happier but can't stop explaining himself to a world that has already decided what your happiness is supposed to look like, what I'm about to show you will change how you understand everything that's happening around you right now. Let me tell you what I've seen happen to intelligent, good men in this situation. They walk into it with clarity. They feel something real. They know the difference between recklessness and genuine connection, because they've had both, and this is not recklessness. But then the commentary starts. And here's the insidious part. It doesn't just come from outside. It starts to migrate inward. The voices of others become your own internal monologue. Is this a cliché? Am I fooling myself? Is this fair to her? What does this say about me? Brother, you are not asking those questions because something is wrong with the relationship. You are asking them because you have been handed a script, and you are reading it word for word, without realizing it was written by someone else. That script has a name. I call it the Suitability Script, and it is the most insidious thing running in a mature man's mind right now. The Suitability Script has 3 lines of code, and every man in an age gap relationship is running at least 2 of them, usually all 3, without knowing it. Line 1. You should want what's appropriate. The first line of the script is the oldest one, and it sounds reasonable on the surface. A man your age should want someone your age. It's framed as fairness, as maturity, as respect. But here's what nobody examines. Who decided what you should want? The premise assumes that attraction is, or should be, primarily a function of social appropriateness rather than genuine compatibility. Here's what relationship research actually shows. Studies consistently find that age gap couples, particularly where the man is 10 to 20 years older, report higher scores in emotional communication and personal growth than same-age couples at similar relationship stages. Not because age gap relationships are inherently superior, but because both people chose each other in full awareness of the difference. There was no assumption, no default. Every day was a conscious choice. Conscious choice produces different quality of relationship than social default. Appropriate is not a feeling. It's a committee decision, and you were never on that committee. Line 1 of the script doesn't protect anyone. It just enforces the committee's verdict on your private life. Line 2. You're probably running from something. This is the most devastating line, because it doesn't just question your choice, it preemptively invalidates your self-knowledge. It says, whatever you think you feel, the real reason is something you're hiding from yourself. And once that seed is planted, you can't win. Every piece of evidence you offer is reinterpreted as denial. You say, she makes me feel alive. They hear, he's terrified of dying. You say, we have genuine connection. They hear, he's in denial about what he's really doing. Psychologists who study this actually have clear behavioral markers that distinguish escapism from authentic choice. Escapism looks like rapid timeline, avoidance of depth, resistance to commitment, pattern of sequential short relationships. Authentic choice looks like deliberate pace, willingness to examine the choice, sustained emotional investment over time, presence of personal growth in both people. The men being accused of running away are, in many cases, the ones who are most willing to examine their own motivations. They are here, watching this, asking hard questions. She didn't make you reckless. She made you honest. The world calls that a crisis because honest men are inconvenient. Line 2 of the script assumes that wanting something different from what you had is weakness. But wanting something different from what broke you, that is not weakness. That is the first act of intelligence after pain. If you're still here, I want you to know something. Most men who find this video click away in the first 3 minutes. Not because the content isn't useful, but because it's easier to stay angry at the people judging you than to look at what's actually happening inside you. You stayed. That tells me something about who you are. The next part is the one nobody in this debate ever says out loud. What comes next is the line of code nobody talks about, because it's the most uncomfortable one. Stay with me. Line 3. You don't deserve new happiness after old failure. This is the line nobody admits is running, but it is the most powerful of the three. It operates on a logic that sounds almost moral on the surface. You had a family, you made commitments, and you left, or it fell apart. You don't get to just upgrade. There is a deep cultural current that says a man who failed at a long marriage forfeits his right to a second act, especially a better second act, especially one that looks, from the outside, like it might actually be working. Let me ask you something. If a man spends 20 years building a career, fails, and rebuilds it in a new direction, we call that resilience. If a man spends 20 years in a marriage, it ends, and he builds a new life that finally fits him, we call that selfishness. Same act, different label. Why? Because the second one involves a woman the world has already decided doesn't belong there. The problem was never the age gap. The problem was that you dared to be happier the second time. The research doesn't say age gap is the key variable. It says conscious choice, free from social script, is the key variable. There is a concept in Jungian psychology called the second half of life. Jung observed that the first half of a man's life is about construction, building identity, building security, building proof of worth. The second half, if a man is brave enough to enter it, is about authenticity, stripping away what was built for others, finding what was always true beneath it. Most men never enter the second half. They keep building. They keep performing, until they die performing a version of themselves they never chose. The man in an age gap relationship, when it comes from an honest place, is often the rare man who has stumbled into the second half of his life. Not by design, by break. Sometimes it takes everything falling apart for the real thing to have room to exist. The break wasn't the end of you. It was the first honest page of the story you were always meant to write. To every man watching this who has been handed the suitability script, you are allowed to delete it. Not because age doesn't matter, not because wisdom doesn't come with experience, but because no one else gets to write the code that runs your life. Not your friends, not your family, not the version of yourself from 15 years ago who made different choices with the information he had then. You have new information now. You are allowed to act on it. Here are 3 things the men who navigate this well, who don't become cautionary tales, who build something real, all understand. Key 1. Understand your own why before anyone else asks. The men who get destroyed by external judgment are the ones who haven't done their own internal examination first. They're defending a position they've never fully articulated to themselves. Action. Write, physically write the answer to this question. If no one ever found out and there were no social consequences, would I still choose this? And why? If the answer is yes, you have your foundation. If you hesitate, you have your homework. Key 2. Stop seeking permission from people who benefit from your smallness. Some people in your life will never validate this choice because your happiness in a different direction is, consciously or not, a challenge to the choices they made. Their judgment is not neutral. It is interested. You are not required to present your life to an interested jury. Action. Identify one person in your life whose disapproval you are carrying unnecessarily. Make the decision, internally, that their script is not yours. You don't need to say anything to them. Just stop running their code. Key 3. Build the relationship as if the whole world is watching, because it is. The best argument for your relationship is not a rebuttal. It is the quality of the life you build. Men who handle this with integrity don't argue. They demonstrate. Action. Ask yourself today, is how I'm treating her something I would be proud of, regardless of her age? If yes, lead. If no, fix it first. I know some of you are carrying something heavier than judgment from strangers. You're carrying judgment from people who love you, your children, your old friends, maybe a version of yourself that you respected. And I want to say this directly. The fact that their opinion matters to you, that you haven't just dismissed it, means you are a man who still has his conscience intact. That's not a weakness. That is one of the most important things about you. The question is not whether their opinion matters. The question is, does their opinion get to be the final word on your life? I think you already know the answer, or you wouldn't still be here. A man who understands himself cannot be written by someone else. The Stoics believed that the only true freedom is the freedom to be exactly who you are, regardless of what the world needs you to be for its own comfort. You don't need permission to claim that freedom. You just need the courage to stop waiting for it. Now I want to hear from you. What's the one thing about your situation, about what you feel, that you have never said out loud because you were afraid of how it would sound? Say it here. Drop it in the comments. This community was built for exactly that conversation. I'm Marcus, and the man who stopped apologizing for being real, that man changes everything.